mother was one of the first Girl Scout leaders, and she was the leader of troop number 5. And of course, I had to be a Girl Scout too, and so did Joan.
257.
And these troops were sponsored by schools or had nothing to do with, there was not a Jewish Girl Scout troop.
No, not to my knowledge. They might have been, but ours wasn't.
I was so thrilled to hear that in the original troops there were Jewish girls, because I think that this is a natural for Jewish girls.
You know, when you think about Girl Scouts and you think about Judaism, there's a lot of threads, because as Jews, we are very community oriented. We are very much about giving back, and isn't that what Girl Scouts is about?
But it's a broader community, and that's where the Girl Scouts come in. It takes your feelings of community, and it has you contributing to the community outside.
It really does help us to understand that we have to do for others. Not only is that a scouting opportunity, but it's also a Jewish opportunity to do mitzvahs. I didn't know I was doing mitzvahs at the time. I do now, but that is a very, very important thing to teach young women, young girls today, that they do need to understand there's somebody out there besides themselves that they have to help.
But it wasn't necessarily religious. They kind of kept it, across the board and holistic, and that was a good concept, because so many times, particularly growing up in Waycross, the religious bearings were always there.
We have our own social groups, and we have our own kids going to their own dancing class, their own everything. This is one of the few places, only place really, that they can get together and really do things together with people that are different than they are. And I think that is so important for everybody.
I was about 11 or 12 when I became a Girl Scout. I was not in the Jewish troop. I was in a troop at St. Michael's Church with a lot of the children in our neighborhood who also belonged.
I felt very strongly about having mixed troops because I wanted girls to get to know other girls who were Jews, or were Jews getting to know what Christians were like.
The Haredi girls must have their own place with other Jewish girls who are willing then to eat as they eat and daven as they daven. However, I am not enchanted with the idea of grouping kids.
If you get yourself too community-based,
all the Lutherans in one troop and all the Episcopalians in another troop and all the liberal Jews in another troop,
then you don't know the other people outside.
I like the fact that today they were mixed in my time and not enough. There weren't black girls. Now there are.
They meet Christian girls and they meet other girls and they work together and they learn that they don't have horns. And the Christian girls, which is wonderful, learn that the Jews don't have horns.
Everyone was the same, it didn't matter if you were purple or blue.
Every religion is important. Everybody is important. Each person is important. And you're looking at people as people.
Everybody is a scout. Everybody is a Girl Scout. And we are scouts together.
It's fine for her to feel good and Jewish within herself. And that's important. And it's good for the Christian girl to feel Christian within herself, and that's important. And there is a line there, but they've got to learn to work together.
To get to camp, you rode a bus, and it stopped in all the towns in Westchester. So you got to meet the girls from that council and that council and that council. One of my best friends in childhood, I met at camp. She was from Ossining. Her father was a guard at Sing Sing, and I was from Crestwood.
Not only did we meet Jewish people of different levels of religious observance, but also even people who weren't Jewish that maybe we wouldn't have met otherwise, because being in Rambam, they were in other schools, we really would have no way to cross paths, but because of Girl Scouts, we were able to meet other people in the community.
We had kids that went to public school, we had kids that went to Country Day, we had kids that went to St. Andrews, we had kids that went to Rambam. We had quite a quite a diverse group. We had siblings, you know, we had a little bit of everything.
It was fun because we came from all different backgrounds, and it was nice to learn about things, about life, just different perspectives from other girls.
It got me involved in the Jewish community because I met people then outside of just Mickve Israel. I met people at the JEA and got involved in the JEA, met people from the conservative and the Orthodox shul, and learned more about the different facets of my religion than I think I would have known had I not been involved in Girl Scouts.
White coral bells upon a slender stalk, lilies of the valley deck my garden walk.
When I think about the Girl Scout experience, you know, you don't think about it for a long time, but when you stop to, you know, rethink about what happened, you know, Girl Scouts is about getting along with people. It's about community.
You might help out somewhere, you know, community service, and you have to take leadership there. I think that's a very big aspect.
It's about socialization.
Because if you were a brownie, you were helping daisies. If you were juniors, you were helping brownies. If you were cadets, you were helping juniors.
And it's about character building.
The fact is that I think the Girl Scouts inspired me to participate, you know, in a positive way from then on, very actively. I'll give the Girl Scouts all that credit because I think that's what the Scouts has done for women in America. If we were fortunate enough to be involved in Girl Scouts, I think it inspired us to know we have to be participants in our community, not only with our family, but with our community. And I've been participating ever since.
Coming in contact with those girls gave me an opportunity to teach them, and then gave me an opportunity to be a leader and to take them different places. And that gave me an ability to do that, which I wouldn't have had otherwise. Gave me leadership abilities.
I think it's very important for women to empower other women. And I think that starts in scouting. Working together towards a common goal, whether we were out in the field building our own latrines and cooking our food over a fire, or whatever we were doing, that we had to do it together.
It was like an organization run by the girls, and it was our input that mattered. So the fact that we were given the opportunity, like you said, as a young age, to kind of develop the skills to organize something and run something and see it through till the end is something that's important for all young girls to have.
They really learned how to work in a group. You know, to not always, in my case, my daughter's an only child, and I think that wasn't a good experience of, you had to sometimes not always get it exactly how you wanted. You had to work together. Everything was a group decision. We voted on everything. So there was, you know, the leaders could kind of overrule things if they weren't feasible, but the girls made all the decisions. So everything came to a vote, and, you know, you got a little bit of what you wanted and you got what you didn't want. I hope our girls learn that if you want good things to happen for your children, you have to be a part of it too. And, you know, I think that was a good example maybe that we set for them.
You have a group of girls, and you know that there's always going to be some people that don't get along with everybody.
You know, I like you today and I don't like you tomorrow. And
You know, if you don't feel like someone likes you, you don't want to play with them, and there's politics that come into play.
that's probably the only thing that I remember is when girls would be left out.
Irma Fox.
I think back about some of those girls that were left out of groups.
Unfortunately, we tied her to a tree
Or were pushed aside.
and left her.
You know, boy, wish we could do it over again today.
Sorry about that, Irma.
Today, in the real world, when I'm at work or I'm in a different setting, if I don't care for someone, I still respect them and I still uphold my persona as a respectful and presentable person towards them.
When I had my bat mitzvah, I totally, you know, I made my speech and I started crying in my speech, and everybody in the synagogue was crying, and it was just a whole big deal. But it was so, it was you know, you're almost a teenager, and, you know, you're having all these feelings of unsure self-image and all of that. But scouting was always a safe haven.
I think that when you belong to anything, And specifically when you belong to Brownies and Girl Scouts, you're part of a group. You have that sense of belonging and that sense of relationship and the sense that somebody cares about you. So I would definitely have to say it was, you know, when you think back, a big part of who I am today.
I just looked at people as people, which was probably one of my, quote, learning disabilities. But Juliette Love probably did that too. I don't imagine that she looked at people different, one person differently from another. I don't think she had the ability to do that. I think that was one of her strengths, and that's why she could do this with Scouts. She had quite a few, she marched to a different drummer, definitely. Her brain was definitely wired differently than supposedly the average bear's brain is wired. And that's the reason she could do what she did. I think that's the reason why she was considerate. That's probably why she allowed the Jewish girls to come into the troop.
Every day I can tell you that why I am successful at my job is because of the relationship building that I know how to do with people, how I am able to garner a team. I can take a group of people who are working in their own little silos and bring everyone together for a common cause. And so when you think about how did you learn those skills, those are the skills that you learn through Girl Scouting.
Make new friends, but keep the old. One is silver and the other gold. Somewhere in this house, I will find them in 5 years, are 4 neckties of 4 different print cotton materials. Each girl was given a long piece. You turned it inside out. You stitched it up, leaving an empty space at the end so that you could stuff through the print side and bring it out and then sew it up. That became your unit tie. Your unit tie was to be tied by somebody that was your friend that you wanted to remember from that summer. And we made the square knots so that you had 4 pieces here. And we had a couple of years where we had girl guides from Europe. And it was the thing if you could get one of those girl guides to tie your tie. You're never supposed to untie it. That's a friendship knot. You may wash it, but you wash it with the knot knotted. Somewhere in this house, I have schlepped with me over all these years 3 or 4 of those friendship ties. As we say in French, verweest. How do I know why I've schlepped them all these years? A memory, I guess.
I mean, I am a camper.
I can remember some of the arts and crafts that I learned that I can still do now.
Do I use my knots all the time?
I still remember how to make some of the knots.
Yes.
We had a wonderful leader who was a young woman who had just gotten out of college, and she was in the science field, and she did a lot of teaching. She taught us a lot. We had one particular project that I remember very clearly, where at the time in Savannah, mosquitoes were a very serious problem. And she was teaching us how to experiment and go around emptying all the water out of standing pots and pans and dishes and all that were left outside, and getting other people to do the same thing to help eliminate mosquito breeding.
I really loved when we had spend the nights, when you just had the girls playing and intermixing. We used to take over the JEA was wonderful to us. They would let us have it overnight. We'd be the only people in the place.
We used to come the night before and sleep over. And then we used to have like hide and go seek in the JA, which is not the smallest building, so it was a lot of fun because you're running all over the place.
They'd lock it down. We'd be able to use everything. They'd we'd have a lifeguard just for us to swim, and then the girls would just take over the senior adult lounge, and we'd cook and we'd play games, and we'd sleep on that hard concrete
floor with everybody, and then wake up and make signs for our float.
And then we'd get up, and a lot of times we'd get up and march in the parade, the MLK parade.
And to have a sleepover with so many girls in one room was really, really exciting.
And I think our girls had a real good feeling for that, and got a real good positive response.
Well, and that was, that's my first exposure to walking in the MLK parade. I never did it till I did it with the Girl Scouts. And that was, I really enjoyed it. It was a fun experience to do it. And we did it several years. We did it many years.
We were doing something over at the school for Martin Luther King Parade.
Very
And
good.
spaghetti dinners. And making signs with corn. Selling cookies at Old Thorpe Mall.
And the
Kmart.
Publix.
Kmart. No, Publix wasn't around then.
Oh right, it was Kmart.
Kroger.
I remember experiencing the great outdoors, and I think the first night that we were there, we were making s'mores, and we were fortunate enough to get deer that came right up to our campsite, and we tried to feed them, and you know, we spun it in a Girl Scout way, and it was a good experience, and it was a nice discussion to have with other girls that had been camping, who had never been camping, and girls that had their moms there, that didn't have their moms there. It was a big coming together soiree, if you will.
I do remember going out to Snow Mountain Park. Now, I lived at least an hour and a half away from Snow Mountain. And one of the Girl Scouts and I, we got on our bikes and biked out there. We were very adventurous. We not only, if you've ever been to Snow Mountain, you know it's just a hill that goes up very far. And I remember going out there on the bike with her, going all the way to the top, coming down, biking all the way back home, and walking in the door to my house. And I actually collapsed when I walked in the door.
You dug a trench around your tent to the lowest point of land, and then you dug it away so that when it rained, all of that would run off. One year we had a new girl. She thought it was a path. Why a rut would be a path, I don't know, but she dug it right into the front of the tent. And the rest of us, of course it rained, of course the water came in. And the rest of us spent, I think, 2-3 hours tamping down her rut and redigging it off the low point.
My most favorite thing was around the campfire. Absolutely. And that's still today. In fact, I go camping every year. This is the 7th year coming, and I have a number of girlfriends, and I'm the camper and the cook, and someone else is the captain on the boat.
If I never see Bisquick again, it will be only too soon. You mix the Bisquick in the water, and then when you had the goo, you put it around the top of your cook stick, put it over the fire until it baked. When you got it off the stick, of course, sometimes it took 2 or 3 tries, they'd fall in, they'd burn. You had this hole in the middle into which you poured the jam. Voila, breakfast.
The least favorite thing was probably latrine duty. That was not fun. Yeah, no.
Our latrine was up the hill. You took your flashlight so you wouldn't stumble. And we had different duties each day. And when you were on latrine duty, you took out the wooden seat from the 2-holer, put it against the tree, and scrubbed it with CN and water. The counselors put the lye down the hole, but that was latrine duty, okay?
We told stories and we went on hikes, and one hike that we went on, we went to the left in the campground, which I had never been during the summer. And so some of them got real brave and went off by themselves, and I said, don't go where you can't hear me call you, because you'll get lost and we'll never find you.
We wandered off and we explored thickets and bugs.
And they did go a little further, and they started screaming. They came to me with a bone in their hand, and it was evidently a bone out of somebody's leg. And I said, oh, that's a cow's bone. Where'd you find it? And they took me to this little grave.
We came upon this grave, a little marker.
And in there was a small coffin.
And it was a casket of iron and had a little window in it.
And the glass top was broken.
Someone had dug it up and left it.
And everything was taken out of it.
And it looked like something out of the Egypt world.
So one of the girls said, it's somebody's leg, and everybody else went, oh, you know.
We were ecstatic.
We did an overnight at SeaWorld that was phenomenal.
We stayed in the park overnight. We slept in one of the exhibits with the manatees.
The girls woke up and shook hands with dolphins and
Slept
I
with the
mean,
manatees and the
manatees.
You'd wake up and there was like a big manatee staring at you in the face.
We woke up and there were manatees swimming right next to you. It was incredible.
And then in the morning, we woke up early before the park opened, and we were able to walk around and, first of all, just be in the park with nobody there. And they brought us to the dolphin pool, and we were able to play with the dolphins before they ate. And they told us that they're the most playful before they eat, so we were able to play with them.
I gave a speech at the 21st birthday of Girl Scouting in front of Miss Lowe's family and friends at the Lutheran Church.
It so happened that at the time that I was in the Girl Scout troop, Nina Pate was, she passed away during that time, as a matter of fact. And she was a cousin of Juliet Lowe's, who helped start the first Girl Scout troop. And our troop was asked to be honor guards at her funeral, which was at Independent Presbyterian Church. So we all were lined up outside as honor guards for her funeral. And our troop also was asked to be at the christening of the Liberty ship, the Juliet Lowe, when they christened that here in Savannah.
When I graduated from college and decided to come back to Savannah, I had a couple things that I really wanted to do when I returned. I wanted to try to take piano lessons again as an adult because I always had that passion. And I wanted to go back to Camp Lowe to see what it was like. And so I had the opportunity to do both of those things. I did take piano lessons and again quit. But I did go back to Camp Lowe. And when I walked onto the soil, I got to the camp, it was as if time had stood still and the camp had not changed at all. And I reverted back to that 1969, 1970 camper. And it was just the most nostalgic experience that it was overwhelming. It was overwhelming. The tents had been upgraded somewhat, but they were in the same place. The latrine was in the same place. Everything was exactly the same. It was as if time had stood still, and it was wonderful.
I was a Girl Scout, as well as my daughter was a Brownie, and my mother was a Girl Scout. So we feel we have a long history in the Girl Scouts.
The experience was wonderful to have that opportunity to share something with my daughter.
And it was really a lot of fun.
It's an amazing experience.
Overnights for Martin Luther King Day were one of my favorites.
In the parade.
I will never forget Girl Scouts.
It's a good character building organization.
The best thing that ever happened to me in my life.
I think it just helped me as a person.
I learned how to camp.
I am not an outdoors person. Normally, my mother used to say to me, take the book and go sit under a tree, at least get some fresh air. But scouting made an outdoors person out of me willy-nilly, and I'm very grateful for that. Oh, they built the ship.
Marion Akers, Navy, men.
Sophie Hirschman.
Sharon Seaman, Sand.
Lucy Gottlieb,
Holly McAdams.
Mary Waits Friedman,
Jewel, Julie Eisenstein, Hirsch.
Judith Demora Gordon.
Alicia Tamar Gordon.
Terry Parker, Leslie Westmoreland,
Samantha Dillon.
Ira Gordon.
Helen Smallhouse Cran,
Cheryl Gordon.
Joy Bradley Warshaw.
Nona Bela Gordon.
Henrietta Stein, I'm a victim.
רד היום, שמש דום, כוכבים הנוצצים במרום.